Go.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Stillwater America podcast. We sit down with extraordinary people who do life in Stillwater, Oklahoma, because we believe every story should be told. I'm your host, Les Thomas, and I'm here with Paul Priegel. Before we jump into the conversation with Paul, will you please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast and leave a review and follow us on Instagram at StillwaterAmerica. It would mean the world to us. Paul, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Man, I'm doing wonderful, great, stupendous, you know.
Awesome.
Yes, sir. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Paul.
Well, I am the airport director at Stillwater.
Okay.
Been there for about 5 years.
Yes, sir.
Been in Stillwater now since 99.
Since 99.
One of those people just came to college and never left. So
Yeah.
I got gravitated towards, all the good things that Stillwater has and have been around for a while now. And so just decided that's where I wanted to spend my life. So
There we go.
There we go.
That's a great place to spend your
It
life
is.
right there.
It really is.
So tell us about where are you from? I noticed that you're from. I want you to say it because I'm very familiar with the place that you're from.
I am from south of Tulsa in a little town called Okmulgee.
Okmulgee.
Yeah, that's where I grew up.
Yeah. So my mother is from Henrietta.
Home of Troy Aikman, by the way.
Yep, home of Troy Aikman.
Yeah.
And so every summer, every spring break was in the hills of Henrietta.
Yep.
And we went to go to town. We went to Okmulgee. When
That's
you first
it.
come into town, you see the big graveyard.
Yeah.
So the hospital, we would go there, the museum, everything. So we wanted to eat good. We went to Okmulgee. So tell us, what was it like growing up in Okmulgee, man?
It was, I enjoyed myself. I stayed active and was involved in a lot of just organizations, my church and everything else. And so it was a really good time. I don't have, my family still lives there. A lot of my friends that I think like a lot of times you'll see a lot of the people that you went to school with, they'll move on and move out. And so not a lot of friends that still live there, but I like to go back for the holidays and stuff.
Yeah, you
Seems
should
like
have a connection there.
Everybody recenters and runs into each other and go out to the store.
'Cause they're probably
restaurant.
coming back for the holidays too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but
So what made you choose OSU?
well, I be a third generation OSU.
Third gen.
Yeah.
Come on now.
My grandpa actually went when it was A&M, and then
Come on.
my dad went, my uncles went, and so it really, I don't even know if I ever considered. I don't think there was even
No other option.
I didn't put in any other applications. That's where I'm going, and so
I love it.
Yeah.
So tell us about coming from a small town like Okmulgee and going to Stillwater, where it's not a huge city, but we're talking about at that time, over 20,000 students.
Yep.
So it's a lot of people in one place. What was that transition like for you?
For me, there was a lot of transition there. One, you're kind of out on your own now.
Yeah.
So I didn't have super controlling parents, but I mean, they knew where I was at, and so being able to just come and go when you wanted to, and I can say I made some mistakes as a freshman.
That's all
like
of
everyone
us.
does.
It's good,
but,
growing pains.
But yeah, I mean, we had it is a bigger town, but it's a very close-knit town.
Yeah, I love
so you didn't really feel like you were lost, which I really liked. And I still feel like that when you talk to students now, I still teach at OSU. And so I have students every semester. And if you ever get to talking to them about Stillwater, that's one of the things that they really love is it's big enough to do what you want, but you're not just a number.
Okay.
You go to places and people are nice to you. They look at you, they talk to you. Even if it's just waiting to get into a restaurant or something out in the waiting area, they're going to make a conversation with you and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's just always been, of course, I stayed in the residence halls the whole time. The first 2 years got involved. I was like the hall president for 1 year. And then the last 2 years I was a resident assistant. I think they call them something different now, but I was an RA then. And so I stayed in that group. And so I always had a really close network and stayed involved, mainly on campus, but had some opportunities to do some things out in the community as well. So it really, once I decided my initial career path, I really was one of those, again, no-brainer things. Like that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to go and I wanted to live in Stillwater. And so it just really, for me, I'm not a big city person. And I know people will laugh when I say Oklahoma City, big city. I know they're not a big city, but Oklahoma City's even too big for me. I'm not big into traffic and all of that, although Perkins Road and elsewhere can be pretty hectic sometimes.
Especially on game day.
Especially on game days.
Yeah.
I do like just the ability to, it's again, the Stillwater continues to grow and meet all your local needs. And, you just kind of I don't need anything bigger. This is just about perfect for me.
So getting there in 99, that's the year that Rashawn Woods got there as well, big time football player. Tell us the difference between a football game in Omuggy and a football game.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Boone Pickens Stadium.
No comparison. Well, and it wasn't even Boone Pickens Stadium.
Lewis Field.
It was Lewis Field.
Yeah.
Had the bleachers and the Jumbotron was in the west end zone there. Yep. I was there when the Jumbotron got hit by lightning. Sinbad was there. If you remember when they used to do Orange Peel.
Orange Peel. Oh, wow.
And I remember, I'll never forget, it was in downpour, and the storms hadn't moved in, so they hadn't cut it yet. They just, everybody's getting wet. And I remember Sinbad walks out. It was supposed to be Sinbad and Faith Hill.
Yeah,
and Sinbad was the opening act. And the stadium was packed, and he said, "I cannot even believe y'all sitting out here, in the rain for me." And they ended up canceling, and we all ran back. He came back and did another show sometime later for free.
That's cool.
But yeah, it was. Make up for it. I'll remember that for a long time. It was a good deal. But yeah, I used to be able to just, when I was in school, and I think some of it was maybe some NCAA stuff where the fields had to be left open for some off-season practice or whatever. But you could just walk in and walk around the stadium and go out on the field. And, yeah. So group of friends.
It's not like that now. It's locked down.
Yeah,
it's gotta have a code to get in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So I know you ended up being a police officer, and we're gonna touch on that. Was that a goal of yours when you got to school? What were you thinking? Your pathway to your degree, all this. Tell me, what got you to the career of being a police officer?
Well, I came to OSU actually pretty much a full ride, going to do pre-med.
Okay.
And realized really quick that I didn't really have the drive to study.
Yeah,
and things you got to have the intelligence to do it, and then you also have to have that drive because it's not just going to class and them opening your mind and dumping it in. You've got to spend a lot of time in and out of class, preparing. And I just didn't have that drive at that young of age. And to be quite honest, looking back now, it wasn't my passion. It was just kind of one of those, I was one of the top of my class, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're going to be a doctor." And I'm like, I'll be a doctor. And thinking about the money and the prestige. Once you get in there and you start putting pencil to paper, it's like, it's not something. So I remember going to my counselor or my advisor at the end of I guess it'd be the beginning of my sophomore year. And she told me, she said, "Well, because you're going to have to either redo your freshman year to get your grades up to be able to be competitive in med school. You're going to change your major." And at the time, the only thing I had a good grade in was psychology.
Okay.
And I had went and did a career assessment as well. And they were like, "You like to help people, and you like to," there was 2 or 3 other things that just kind of like lined up, but I didn't really focused on. And so at that point, I was like, I could still save grace and be a doctor, but I can do the psychology stuff.
Okay.
And so
there we go.
I went down I declared psychology major, went through all the courses there. And as I got further and further into it, I really started gravitating towards the police and criminal side of psychology.
Okay.
Got to do an internship with Stillwater Police Department. I can remember walking in there, meeting with the coordinator of the internship program, and them going, "You want to be a police officer?" "No, I don't. I just want to, get some experience in a police department. So I'm going to do some sort of criminal psychology." And like, "Oh, okay." And ended up getting to come back for a second semester. And but the caveat was I had to go do a ride along. I had just really been against doing it. I was like, I don't need to go out there and do a ride along.
Yeah.
And so I can remember I hopped in the vehicle, and when I get the little tour, I don't know if you've ever done a police ride along, but they'll give you a little tour of, hey, this is the radio in case something happens to me, pick it up. You're sitting there, your eyes are just wide, like, oh my gosh. And within like 30 seconds, we get a call of a robbery in progress, which turned out to not be it was a false alarm, but here we are running lights and sirens down the wrong way of the road. And I'm like, holy cow, this goes on in Stillwater. And so needless to say, by the end of that ride along, my perspective had changed quite a bit, and I really set a path. But I was 300 pounds. I was not in any shape. And so
at that time you was 300.
Yeah. So I began kind of a fitness journey, and I went out decided that was going to be my goal, was to be a police officer, and spent my entire senior year really preparing myself. Now, granted, this was I graduated in 03, 9/11 happened in 01. And so there wasn't a lot of police and fire openings by the time, because everybody just lined up to be police and fire after that.
Police, fire, and military.
Yeah. And so there wasn't a lot of openings. So I ended up becoming, right out of college, became a detention officer with Stillwater Police Department. I knew without a doubt that's the agency I wanted to work for. And so at that point, I set my goal to be there, and then figure out any way I could to get in the door and work my way up. So I became a detention officer, did that for about a year, and then I actually got recruited out of there to go do probation and parole here in Payne County, and did that for 2 years. Worked for Department of Corrections as a probation and parole officer.
Okay.
Also got to serve as a reserve officer down in Perkins, which is a little town south of Stillwater.
Yep.
And so those all kind of contributed to some building and just experience. And then when a police officer position came open in 2006, I was able to transfer and do that. And so I did that clear up until 2017. Great time at that police department, a lot of opportunities. I got to do everything from the SWAT team to crisis negotiations to accident reconstruction, field trainer. Probably one of my most rewarding things was at the end, towards the last 3 or 4 years, I got to be a part of the community outreach program.
Okay.
And that really was important for me, because you think about it, most people aren't having a great day when they call the police, or when the police, whether it's you're calling them to help you, or you get pulled over on the side of the road. And so this was one of those opportunities that created those events outside of the traditional contact, so people could see the police for the human side, and the police could spend time with the citizens when it's not an adversarial contact.
Yeah.
And it was really rewarding. Got to do a lot of things, and still seeing that go today. So that's always been a near and dear to my heart. And so probably one of the most memorable things I was a part of as in the police department world. And then, going to the airport, that was really wasn't expected. Wasn't looking for anything. I had way back in about middle of my career at the police department, I had to have shoulder reconstruction. And so time you have your shoulder taken out, you're down, particularly in a police officer role, for about a year.
Yeah.
And so I spent time in investigations. I had a mentor that said, "Hey, you ought to try this aviation program. It's a master's program at OSU. It has a lot of leadership, security type stuff." And I said, "I'll give it a try." The city has a great reimbursement program for tuition. So I pretty much was able to
There's incentive to do it.
Get my master's degree without really, I paid a little bit, but they took up most of it.
There we go.
And so really didn't do it I thought, well, I'll help myself, be more appealing in promotions in the future, get a little bit of extra bonus on your paycheck, and not really looking for anything else. And then I got asked to start teaching at OSU for the Aviation Education College. And so I started doing that, and been doing that now for about 13 years in some various courses. But really that was just a side gig for me. It was fun to do, took my mind off police work. I, enjoy doing it, still enjoy doing it. And back in 2016, when we got commercial air service at the airport, my police chief called me in, which is never a good thing usually. Usually when the police chief calls you in, you're just like, crap, what'd I do? But he said, "Hey, we paid for this degree, so why don't you go out there and help the airport develop the airport security program and the emergency stuff?" And so I was like, okay. So I go out there, and just a side deal, working with the airport administration out there. And shortly after that, they opened up a assistant director position. My predecessor was there for 32 years.
Okay.
And he
at
was
the airport.
And he was looking for a transition person to come in, and as he started looking at retirement. So went over in September 17, and pretty much have been there ever since. When I got there in September 17th, I was assistant director, and then my predecessor left in October of 18, and I took over as director and been director ever since.
So you had a year of training, like, I guess, shadowing with him?
Shadowing and getting some certifications, and really just learning. Of course, I still learning every day. It's not only is it just one of those environments that you just constantly get new things happening. COVID really has added a lot more things
Yeah, tell us about that. What's a day in the life of being there at the airport? Like, what all does your job consist of? You know, what all do you do?
Well, I'm waiting for the same day twice, so
Okay.
I can't even really.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really one of the things about our airport is we're a commercial airport. There's 108 airports in the state, and there's only 4 of them that are commercial: Oklahoma
Okay.
City, Tulsa, Lawton, and us.
Okay.
And the bigger the airport, the more employees you have, particularly in the administrative side. And so the director under a bigger airport has departments or has people assigned for various things.
Mhm.
In a smaller airport, I've got an administration team of 4. And so we really have a lot of hats we have to wear. And so there's everything from just the day-to-day management of the airport, the finances, the bills, and all of that, to dealing with negotiations for leases and terms and conditions of contracts, security things, emergency planning. I mean, you name it, development. I have a great staff. I get to do a lot of things where I can focus more on the future. You know, our airport, if you've been by our airport in the last 3 or 4 years, it's changing daily. A lot of construction going on. We've got new terminal ahead, new air traffic control tower ahead.
So is that because it's expanding or
expanding, and just the fact that it's a World War II facility, and so, for example, our terminal, we have a modular building as an add-on. We've got about 10,000 square feet of space that we share with commercial and general aviation community.
Okay.
Just for general aviation, just for commercial alone, we're needing somewhere around 30,000 square feet based on the current development standards. And so way undersized. We've done a really good job of taking care of that facility, but it's 60 years old. And so it's probably older than that now. And so it's just, at some point, those things are at the end of their lifespan. And now one of the things about our commercial services, we've had to go in and retro everything. We've had to adapt things to accommodate and give people the basic comforts that they want to see as a commercial airport. We're now going to be able to go design space for that. And it's going to be really cool to be able to go forward and design, instead of having to say, okay, well, here's this, shape of a building that you've got to now put rental cars or baggage claim and things in. Now we're going to actually have space design. So it's really cool to, think about going through that process. And the thing about my job that's probably super cool and a lot stressful as well is decisions that I make today I may not even see in my career. But, we're talking definitely 5, 10, 20-year decisions that are made. And
that's almost like politicians.
It can be.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, the decisions they make now, sometimes it impacts you right away, but
yeah,
a lot of times you really see the fruit of it later, though.
Yeah, and you've got to really look down the road quite a bit because of funding and things. We're very fortunate. The Federal Aviation Administration has really been supportive of our growth, and they know that we have a lot of priorities because of commercial service. It elevates your airport above a lot of other airports because of the essentialness that it creates being a commercial air service provider. But we just finished up, or we're finishing up, a $16.5 million project just to redo our parking apron for our aircraft.
$16.5 million.
100,000 cubic yards of concrete. We had, as you all know, particularly through OSU, we get 737 charters in several times a week for OSU athletics. We were on asphalt it was scary to see sometimes in like hot weather. It would almost look like it was going through mud because the pavement would move because it just wasn't very thick.
Really?
Now we have really substantial concrete where we can park jets anywhere we want. And so it's those things, they seem, a lot of people are like, oh, you're putting concrete in. But for us, particularly on busy game days and things, we'll fill that entire space up and just the ability.
People with personal planes and
you'll get private jets in and stuff. And I know the Texas game, the homecoming game, was just out of control. It was 40 or 50 jets parked here. Yeah. And then we had 3 big jet. We had 3 A321 or 737s that were parked here as well. And so it's a pretty substantial place. And I would encourage people, if you just go out by there and see. We get somewhere around 80,000 landings and takeoffs a year. And so
Wow.
you think about that when you start breaking it down per minute and per day, it's pretty substantial. So a lot of fuel, like almost 500,000 gallons of fuel a year.
Wow.
And so
tell us about how, like, to the average person there in Stillwater, they're thinking, oh, we're putting this money into the pavement, which, they think maybe that doesn't affect them directly. So other than it being, it was a safety issue. Tell us about how, expanding like that, how that impacts the citizens of Stillwater and how it impacts the town, how it helps us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Our airport has always had relevance in not only our community, but in the entire national air system. I get comments. It kind of cracks me up. I'll go somewhere and I'll have my airport badge or a shirt on. They'll say, "We have an airport?" Yeah. Or the other one I like is, well, I was there when the airport started in 16 and they think that the airport started in 2016 when we got commercial service. And so one of the things that it's really not a kept secret, but a lot of our community don't realize is we have one of the biggest university flight schools in the region, and they're putting out hundreds of pilots a year, professional pilots a year, that are going and filling this critical pilot shortage that we're experiencing nationwide.
Wow. That's
and
good.
So that in itself is super critical for us. But the commercial service really does, whether you fly American Airlines or not, the benefit it brings to the community. You think about the connectivity. There are so many cool things about being able to leave your house, drive 5 or 10 minutes, because we're a small airport, you're going to spend 5 minutes from the time you get out of your car till the time you get to the gate. TSA check lines are almost obsolete.
Yeah.
You're walking in. If you're flying regular, they know you by name. They're
I'm
like,
envious.
hey, so-and-so. And so all of that. And you can connect anywhere in the world that American flies. You go down DFW, which is one of the largest hubs out there.
Yeah.
And just that connectivity is just awe-inspiring. The thing, we talk to people all the time that are going to, Asia and different places like that. And it's like, wow, and they're getting ready to go on a 20-hour or something journey from
starting
Stillwater.
right here. Yeah, Stillwater.
Yeah. But, you look at the economic impact, and that's really what this is about. A lot of people want different things.
Yeah.
Some people don't fly. Some people say, you know what, I've never flown in my life. I don't plan to. Why does the airport matter to me? Well, what the airport does is it brings in millions and millions of dollars in economic activity over any given year. And that is churned through hotels, through restaurants, through people that are visiting that, if you think about it, if you're flying in somewhere, you're going to stay pretty close to where you fly in. And so now that the people are flying into Stillwater, they're occupying our hotels, not Oklahoma City or Tulsa's.
Yep. Hotels, restaurants.
Stillwater is no longer a day trip for them. It is their destination. And they're able to come in and they're going to spend several days here and they're going to shop and they're going to explore downtown. All of that benefits people. Benefits through taxes, through, and of course, as a city, we're relying on that for our operational expenses. And so the more people that come to Stillwater, the better. The more money they spend here and all of that, it exponentially goes on and on and on and churns through city services, through local services, through business growth and development. And so all of that is plays into it. Then we look at, the quality jobs aspect. We're able to offer these programs where we're incentivizing people to work remote here in Stillwater. They may have a home company in Michigan or somewhere else, but they can relocate their family here, bring that paycheck here, invest in our schools, invest in our restaurants and all that. And then when they need to, they can hop on a plane and go back to the home office. We have companies that will come in and they may not say, well, we're going to come in exclusively for Stillwater or for commercial air service, but on the RFP that they put out to the chambers that say, this is the type of community we want to live in, they say, one of the check boxes, we want commercial service. Well, there's only 4 of us in the state of Oklahoma. So if they say, we want to think about if you want to live in the state of Oklahoma, you want your company somewhere in Oklahoma, You got Oklahoma City, Tulsa. And quite frankly, if they want to be in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, there's nothing Stillwater is going to do to pull them away because there's a lot more infrastructure there. But we're finding more and more people are not wanting to locate in those big cities.
Yeah.
And so you either got Stillwater or Lawton. And then you got Stillwater, who's, in my opinion, way, way over Lawton. That's nothing against Lawton, but I mean, you think about the location, the proximity to two big metros, the centrality of the state, just the environment. I mean, we are a hands down pick. And so just having that checkbox helps us in so many ways. So there's just a lot. And I know a lot of people, I hear about it sometimes. And I know our city council and stuff about why are we investing the money into the airport? And that's why it just, a healthy airport is going to continue to see bigger and better things for our community as well.
Well, that's been future minded. I mean, you have to invest to make money, right?
You do.
And so if you want to expand and bring more opportunities to Stillwater, people need to be able to fly in and out.
Yeah. Well, and I'll give you an example. I talked about the $16.5 million project. Out of pocket, the city of Stillwater paid about $600,000. The rest of that was grant money.
Yeah. See?
And so you're talking about the economic churn that $16.5 million does. Think about the out of town construction crew that has relocated to our airport for multiple years.
Wow.
Occupying hotels. This has been a 3.5-year project.
Wow.
And so, we're talking multiple phases. They come in, they're putting their employees up, they're eating at our restaurants, they're buying materials here. They're hiring local workforce because a lot of times they're going to come in with their management structure, but it behooves them to get as many people locally as they can because that's one less person having to put up in a hotel and all of that.
Yeah.
You got the terminal ahead. The terminal is estimated to be around $30 million. We're going to spend probably out of pocket somewhere around $4 million. And so all of the rest of that's going to be grant money. And so again, that in itself, just the investment and seeing that dollar come into the community and churn is just absolutely amazing as well.
Again, I don't think that's the part that people think about. Like, when you expand, it is creating jobs, and the plan is it's going to bring in more money.
Yep.
Also, I mean, we think about, one of the highlights. So thousands of highlights in Stillwater, but one of it is our sports, right? And so our team, we don't have to jump on a bus. They don't have to go to Tulsa or Oklahoma City. They can fly right in and out Stillwater. I mean, I see, Coach Boynton and now Coach Hoyt with their shoes. They show their Jordans or whatever shoes they got on their feet up.
On the jet right there.
Yeah, it's right there in Stillwater. That's the beautiful thing about our athletes can get home pretty quick and get out of here pretty quick without the hour drive somewhere, right? And that's one of the great benefits. So speaking of that, is there a time that you remember being there where one of our teams returned and they had just won a big game or won a championship or won something where you got to see them return and see the fans greet them? Is there a highlight? I'm sure you've seen that before. Is there a highlighted time?
I've seen it happen quite a few times. Yeah. And I don't remember this specific game, but we had one night that it was really cold and rainy, and it was like 2:00 in the morning, and we didn't really expect people to show up. And we look up, and all of a sudden there's 50 people out there with signs and stuff. And and I want to say we lost. I want to say it's a tournament deal or something.
But they were showing their support. That's the Stillwater way, man.
They were out there in the cold and the rain.
That's the cowboy way.
That is, absolutely. And so we try to, when they go out, we usually keep that pretty low key because we know there's a lot of time, commitments and things that, when they leave, they got a certain amount of time to get in there, get screened, get on the plane and go.
Yeah.
And so we don't really advertise. We don't advertise most of it anyways, but I know on some of those return trips, we'll see something pop up and okay, people are going to show up. So
we need to be ready.
Yep. So we'll monitor the airwaves on that, but it's, and I tell you what, that's the community in general. Talk about something about it's not just the cowboy way, it's the Stillwater way. And whether those play into each other, I'm sure they do, but it's just the community itself I saw this during a police officer days, and now, of course, as an airport director, and I stay involved and I stay doing different things, not only locally but across the nation. And I can tell you, we have such a unique community, and I think some people don't realize it. And they may not have left here, or they may have not been involved like they have in other communities, but when you start going, particularly in my position, I get to talk to a lot of different airport directors. I get to see a lot of different settings, and talking about some of the obstacles that they face is just, I couldn't imagine even experiencing that here, because that's just not how our community is. And we're passionate about it, and I do believe, we're known as America's friendliest college town, and I 100% believe that. I mean, and I think anybody that's come here to OSU, whether it's just you did your 4 years and you left, or you decided to stay like I did, I think one of the best things is, coming back, and you're not coming back for a status quo. You're coming back and you're loving it. You're coming back and you're finding out, you're remembering those days. Yeah, it's a memory lane deal, but you're also remembering wherever you're at now, you're coming back and you're home, and you're treated like you're home. You're not just, oh, well, thanks for your 4 years, 30 years ago. You're treated like you just walked out of here yesterday. And so I think that's probably one of the coolest things. And, I've seen it play out year after year, particularly around homecoming, having the law enforcement background around it. You see these hundreds of thousands of people come into town, and they don't know a difference. They don't know that they're in one of the safest places they can be. There's heavy presence, there's covert presence, and we're there to protect you. And if we do it right, you won't know, and hopefully we never need it. But, it's just the level of investment that our town has to bring these people in and make sure that they're getting around and being accommodated and feeling safe, and really being able to concentrate on the great things that this community has.
That's one of the many things I love about our community here is the family atmosphere.
Absolutely.
Supporting each other, Stillwater strong, having each other's back, and supporting each other. So, we're going to end here in a little bit, but I want to jump into the growth that you've seen from 99 to 2023.
Yeah.
You were there, you've experienced a lot of it as a citizen and as a police officer, and now working at the airport. Tell us about that. What's some of what's the biggest thing that's amazed you, or what's some of the things that stand out to you about the growth?
Just the fact that it's just never ending. And I can tell you, from thinking back when I was in school here, where Homeland is now was, a field, where Texas Roadhouse, that was a field.
Really?
I remember when they built the apartments behind Hobby Lobby, and they've had like 4 or 5 different names since then, the new Walmart. And, I mean, I've been here long enough to see all that develop. And what's crazy is you think, well, you start really feeling old when you start thinking about all that, but it hadn't been that long ago. And then I just experienced it myself. Again, talked about shoulder surgeries, being off the streets, off patrol. If you're off the patrol for even a year, you come out and you're like, where did this neighborhood come from? Not just a street, a whole neighborhood develops, or a new shopping district or whatever. And so I like that. And then the fact that we're not just throwing out the old, the reinvestment that's going into downtown. And just some of the things that we're seeing there. There's just so many different initiatives that are Block 34 is the newest one. I cannot wait for that space. That whole area down there at downtown, I think it's going to revolutionize the entire downtown district. I mean, you're going to have just a great entertainment space, that community gathering space that we really have been lacking. I mean, we think about a lot of the gathering that we do in, say, for example, OSU game days. And, it's granted, just like you can walk through an OSU crowd and you're going to see people, but that's not, sounds bad. It's not the citizens of Stillwater coming together. It's citizens of Stillwater plus 50,000 other people from all over. And you love seeing that. That's a great thing. But also, there's just something magical and special about going to a community space in those off seasons, Mary Main Street or whatever, going down there, and almost everybody you run into, or you know of. And it's just, and to think about the size of our town, 50,000 and growing. That's not including a lot of the student population, because they don't usually make the census count. But
Yeah.
50,000 people and growing, and you still go out to a restaurant or you go to these community events and you feel like you're in a small town.
Yep.
And the ability for us to do that is just amazing. And it's really because of the compassion of our citizens and our community and the fact that we don't want to get lost in the numbers. We want to continue to know.
Yeah.
And so it's just, the growth. I think that's one of the things that is awe-inspiring for me is as much as we've grown, that part we have not outgrown that.
Yeah.
And
We still have that.
I don't know what the key to that is. I hope we never lose that because I think at one point, if we ever do, someone's going to be like, why? What just happened? Why? But I hope that we never get to that. I hope that we continue to focus. And it's initiatives like Block 34 and downtown and even the McKnight Center. I mean, the McKnight Center, yes,
Huge.
it brings people out, but it really, you think about it, you go to an event at the McKnight Center, it's a lot of people from Stillwater. I mean, it is premier and it's putting us on the map for all these concerts and different things like that. So
you remember Cheers, sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name.
And sometimes you don't. But but for the most part,
Yeah.
It's like it always takes me longer to go to Walmart than it ever should have because I always see people. And I can't, every once in a while, like if I really need to get it out, I'll put a hat on and I'll, go in there like trying to be incognito or whatever. But it's, I love it. I love going places and very rarely do I go places and I don't see someone I know. And it's nice, just be able to even just say hi,
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, that's part of the fabric of Stillwater that makes it a special place.
Yep.
And I think about one thing you said, like 50,000 plus, and we still have that type of atmosphere here. And I think, part of it may be because it's slow growth. You know what I mean? It's not like we didn't go from 25 to 50 in a few years. It's slow growth. So the new people that come, they probably just adapt to the Stillwater way. And, and I just love to see it. I love what you're doing here at the airport and served, our city as a police officer and went to OSU. And it's one of the things that I'm seeing reoccurring thing that's happening is many people I interview, they went to Oklahoma State University and stayed.
Yep.
I mean, that says a lot. And that's one reason OSU Stillwater is growing as well because students are becoming a citizen of the area.
And I can tell you, I get to serve on the chamber board, and we've talked about. I'm also on their economic development committee, and that committee has talked in depth about how do we keep people here. We're not being a university town. A lot of people don't come here with the intention of staying here. This is just a stepping stone. You think about it, if you have a career in place, whether it's a doctor, lawyer, whatever, and you come in and you say, I want to go there, but you're thinking ahead of time, like, where do you want to work? You may want to work in a different part of the country.
Yeah.
You may want to go back to your hometown. You may say, well, I'm just going to see what opportunity presents itself, and then I'll go. I think we can really work on, as a community, making sure that people know how good and great this community is.
Yeah.
And one of the things we always try to encourage is yes, it gets annoying to drive down Perkins Road and having, a bunch of traffic and stuff. And you hear people talk about, how much they enjoy Stillwater more when the traffic, breaks and things like that. And yes, that's true. But I also think as a community, one of the things that we always try to encourage and that I think we do a really good job at is making sure we reach out those arms and say, you know what, this would be a great place for you to, when you graduate, reinvest in the community. And then also working on creating more opportunities for people to do that where they can, it's about vision. It's about, everybody has that vision when they go to college or wherever they want to go, whether it's a trade school or whatever. I mean, heck, look at some of the trade schools that we have around as well. All of that can be done here in Stillwater, but now we have to make sure we plant that seed early that, if you thought about staying in Stillwater afterwards, you don't have to just bounce out of here after 4 years. Think about raising your family here.
Yeah.
And so I think that's that's a unique challenge, and I think we do it well. I think we obviously can always do better at making more plays at that and making sure people can see the opportunity. But I would encourage people, particularly if you're a college student, get out and see the community. Get off that campus. Campus beautiful. You can, I was one of those people. I pretty much didn't get off campus except once a week to go to Walmart or something. But go out and see the sites. Go out and enjoy it and see what we have to offer. And I really think people will be amazed. And for me, once it gets a hold of you, you ain't leaving. So
I believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, people do talk about the construction and things like that, but that's growing pains. And to think about, like, I had one person on and they talked about how Perkins Road used to be a dirt road.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, it's a short time of being inconvenienced for a long time of benefiting from it, right? It's just like going to college. I tell young people, hey, it's a short term investment for a big payoff. Like, you have to go and buckle down. Yeah, it may be inconvenience. You may be a little stressed, but it's a big payoff. And so that's the same thing with, when we're growing the way we are, you got to make sure that the infrastructure, you got to make sure that roads are expanded and all that. And again, we fuss about it, but when it's done, we're like, man, I'm so glad that they did this.
And most of the time, you're not going to even remember it.
Exactly.
2 or 3 years down the road, you know, it's going to be like, I remember having to go drive around to go to, the north side of, shopping or something like that. But, it's really, and it's again, those are ODOT projects. And those are, I think what always makes me really proud as well is seeing the amount of investment that outside entities invest in our town. That's one of them. There's relevance there. That is an ODOT project. You get into the airport and how much money from federal funds that they said, you know what, Stillwater, you are something. There's a reason that we want to invest in you. We see this potential. And we're not talking $100,000, we're talking millions and millions of dollars, and to have just life-changing impacts to everybody, whether they use the airport or not. And so to me, that lets me know we're doing something right, and we're definitely on the right track. And it always amazes me as we go through our kind of master planning and looking ahead, how crazy it is to think how far we've come. And then I'm just sitting back ready to see what happens in the future, because it just really is endless opportunities. And I think that's what's really exciting. Go to some towns, it's just kind of a dead end town. You're like, this is about as peaked out as they're going to be. And, Stillwater, you can't say that. Absolutely.
That's cool. Well, Paul, it's been great hearing your perspective from moving to Stillwater in 1999. Up until 2023. It's been a pleasure having you on here and hearing your perspective on the changes and your thoughts about the city, and appreciate you expanding our mind on, how the airport impacts our little big city, a big little city.
Absolutely, yeah.
Appreciate that big time. And if anyone would like to get in touch with you or anything, maybe, I don't know, you told them to come by the airport, come look at it or whatever. Let's say someone wanted to get in contact with you specifically. Is there an email address or anything?
Absolutely. So I could actually spell out my email, which is just paul.priegel@stillwater.org, or you could jump on the City of Stillwater's website under airport. I'm linked directly. You can send an email directly to me. You can also get on flystillwaterok.org or flystillwaterok.com and check them out, and we'll have all of our information on there as far as our contacts and all that.
Well, cool, Paul. Thank you for your time. My name is Les Nevertheless Thomas, and I represent Stillwater America podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, anything that's coming out. Everything is changing day to day. Make sure to follow us on all the things. Have a great day.